Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. It's Alan the Comic Collector Geek, and this is a Sunday video where I look at the hottest Golden Age comics of the week. And this week, I got some pretty cool ones on the list, some that I actually had to do some investigation on. Let's get right into it. First one on the list, number 10, is Schwinn, a bicycle book. This is from Schwinn Bicycles. It was a promotional comic from 1949. On it they have like a guy going on a bicycle and he's going 108 miles, 108.92 miles per hour on a Schwinn bike. So it's just like, kind of a cool thing. This was as I said, it's a promotional comic, so it's kind of a cool one. But these were mass produced. Okay, so these went with pretty much to promote their bicycles, right? So this was a 3.0 copy that sold, and it sold for $26. So when I first saw that, I was like, really? That's like less than the cost of the slab. So, um, and yeah, this one, it's an only sale for this grade. A 5.5 actually sold for $110 back in January of 2022. A 7.5 sold for $72 in June of 2020. And you'd think, okay, well, based on the 5.5, this is actually a steal. Based on the 7.5, well, this is kind of in line with what you would expect almost. This is one of those books that you're really paying for the slab. It's not that you're paying for the book, you're just paying for it to be in the slab. There's plenty of copies on eBay for this one. And they usually are mid-grade, like 5.0 to maybe 6.0 range. And they usually sell for around $20 to $30. So this one is one of those situations where, in a way, it's better to buy it raw. It's actually cheaper to buy it raw than buy it graded. So you're really just buying the cost of the slab, which is kind of a sad thing to say about this book, but it really is. So I thought it was a steal of the week, but it's maybe not really a steal because you can get better copies for less. Um, it's an interesting one. This is one that you just don't get graded generally. And so don't be fooled by low census counts. So this is one where there's only 3 on the census, but it doesn't mean that it's a rare comic. 3 on the census and 3 are Universal Blue Labels. Number 9 on the list is Captain Marvel Jr. number 115. This is from Fawcett, 1952. It's a Bud Thompson cover. And this is the eye popper. It's the eye opener, it says on the comic. It's like the thousand-eyed idol of doom. And it's just a really over-the-top cover. I mean, the eyes are popping out. You see the sinew of the eye and everything. It's just like such a crazy cover. One that I always felt was a little bit underrated because you look at pre-code horror covers that are more gruesome and they go for big money. Well, this is a pretty gruesome Captain Marvel Jr. comic, which is, in my mind, even more interesting. This was a 0.5 that sold, and it sold for $254. Now, this one's a little interesting. I had to do a bit of an investigation on this one because the previous record for this book was set back in March of 2025 for $325. So I looked into that sale and it's a sale that's recorded on Go Collect, but I don't think that sale came through. So I think that the last sale is actually the record for this book in this grade. The last sale was in April of 2025, so a month after it, for the same book. So that's why I'm thinking that the previous 325 sale didn't actually happen. And in April, it sold for $182. So I think that's the record for this book in this grade. And this is a new record. So sometimes, like the census, you think you're getting a steal when because it was $70 under the record. But that record, I don't think was actually actualized. So just, again, investigate before buying. You'll learn a lot and you can save a few dollars. Actually, there was a cool 3.0 record sale where a 3.0 sold for $590 in April of 2025, which would suggest that this book, if you go by price per point, this should be like like a $200 book. Maybe. Is that right? Six, no, $100 book. $100 book. There's a lot of price compression in the lower grades, and that's what happened with this one. It's just, it's one where from a point 0.5 to a 1.0, really not much difference in price. Uh, Still a cool book. I think still a great price. I think this one has a lot of opportunity to go up a lot more once people know about it because it is such a cool cover. There are 64 of these on the census, and 62 of them are universal blue labels. Number 8 on the list is The Black Hood, number 15. This is from MLJ Comics. It's 1945. It's a Edward Raymond Kinsler cover, and it's just a really cool one. I like these ones where you got the man carrying the woman, and she's like, sort of passed out, and he's like carrying her. This is the Black Hood doing that. It's just I think it's a cool one. They're going through the sewers, and she's wearing a red dress, which is appropriate for the Golden Age. It's just a cool cover. He's a great artist. He actually did several presidential portraits, one for Ford and one for Reagan. Just a great artist. So this was a 4.0 that sold, and it sold for $400. The previous record for this book was set back in September of 2024 for $312. So this is up from the record, but even the last sale, this book actually hadn't been performing that well. The last sale for this book was in February of 2025, where it sold for $264. So it's actually not only gone back up to the previous record, but surpassed it with an extra $100. So very strong sale for this book. It's actually a hard book to find because there's only 23 of them on the census, and 23 are universal blue labels. Number 7 on the list is Detective Comics number 57. This is from DC Comics 1941. It's a Bob Kane cover, and this one, it's an interesting thing. I feel like superheroes need to learn how to use basic things like doors. Like open the door and just go in. They always seem to come through the window. It's a thing. It's more dramatic. I know, glass shattering all over the place, but I'm not sure how practical it is to jump through windows. Well, on this cover you got Batman jumping through the window to rescue Robin, who is in bondage. Frederick Wortham would have loved this cover. I think this is one where he always critiqued Batman for the fact that Robin was in bondage, and he would say that that's sort of similar to women in bondage, where the hero rescues the woman, and he always tried to make it something weird. This one would be right up his alley. So this was a 4.0 that sold, and it sold for $1,100. Interesting thing about this book is it's a sample copy, and it's stamped on the cover saying that it's a sample copy, which makes it extra special in my mind, because a sample copy is something that they would give to the artists that were maybe involved or to people associated to the publisher. And I can't imagine there being very many sample copies that were given out, like maybe a few dozen. So I think it's kind of a cool little piece of history to have that extra sample copy stamp on it. That's a personal opinion. Do you think it adds value? Tell me in the comments below. The previous record for this book was set back in June of 2022 for $1,002.89. So it's up $100 from that previous record, and that was from June of 2022, where kind of a COVID price. It was a little bit, some of these books kind of went a little bit higher during COVID. The last sale for this book actually had sort of corrected from that high record, where it sold for $750 in November of 2024. So this is really just recorrecting and actually setting a new record. So pretty cool sale. There are 67 of these on the census, and 55 of them are universal blue labels. Number 6 on the list is Spangled Comics number 1. This is from DC Comics 1941. It's a Hal Sherman cover, and it is the origin and first appearance of the tarantula. It has also the book that, Star Spangled Kid and Stripesies kind of, it's their title. Very cool book, cool robot cover. This was a 4.0 that sold, and it sold for $1,575, which is up a lot from the previous record. The previous record was set back in May of 2027. No, sorry, May of 2017, for $1,064. So it's up about $500 from that previous record. But this book actually hasn't been performing that well. The last sale was in May of this year, for $960. So it's kind of recovered from its poor performances and has really done well. There's 86 of these on the census, and 66 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 5 on the list is Adventures of Rex the Wonderdog, number 4. This is a DC comic, and it's a Gil Kane and Frank Giacocha. It's the first appearance of Detective Chimp. Just a really cool book. It's kind of the main key for Rex the Wonderdog, and that's why it's actually been on the list a few times, because it is such a major key. This was a 5.5 that sold, and it sold for $1,994, which is the only sale in this grade. But I actually think that this was a bit of a steal, because this book usually should sell for a bit more. It's one of those books that actually does command a bit of money. There was a 4.0, though, that kind of maybe people were looking at in terms of the value of this book, that kind of set a really low standard, because there was a 4.0 that sold in in October of 2024 for $1,380. So that was kind of like on the low side. But there was a 5.0 that sold back in December of 2023 for $1,998. Okay. So I would have expected this to go for a bit more, because it's lower grade or higher grade, and it sold for $4 less. But there was actually a recent sale for an 8.0 copy, where an 8.0 copy sold for $4,560, which was in April of 2025. Now, if you go by the price per point on the 8.0, even though there is it seems like the prices kind of do follow that price per point value, you would expect this book to be in that $3,000 range. So I would have expected anywhere from $2,500 to $3,000 actually, but this one didn't quite make it. It was just a bit of a weaker sale for this one. There are 39 copies on the census, and 38 are Universal Blue Labels. Number 4 on the list is Lone Ranger Comics number 1. This is from Lone Ranger Inc. Inc. And it's from 1939. It's actually the first Western comic devoted to a single character, and it's also the first appearance of the Lone Ranger. And it's another promotional comic. This one was promoting ice cream. So you get this huge ice cream cone on the cover promoting the Lone Ranger. What what better spokesman can you have for ice cream than the Lone Ranger? Totally makes sense. This was a 2.5 that sold, and it sold for $2,000. Now, this was interesting. The previous record for the same grade was set back in January of 2024 for $660. Now, that's an interesting sale, because that was me. That was my sale. My copy is a 2.5. Now, the prior record before my sale, because mine actually was a record, like mine, set a new standard for this book. The prior record was actually set back in December of 2017 for $465. Now, this book just doesn't sell that often. It's a fairly hard book to find. Unlike some promotional comics, this one there wasn't many kept. Now, this is the interesting copy, actually, and part of the reason maybe it sold for a bit more is it is the poster variant. Now, some of these Lone Ranger comics came with a poster, an additional poster. This one comes with the poster, so it's just a little bit more of a rare variant. And that might explain why it sold for basically 3 times what I paid for my copy. So, really strong sale for this book. There are 36 of these on the census, and 32 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 3 on the list is Superman number 3 from DC Comics 1940. This is a Joe Shuster cover, and it's a cool one because it's Superman flying over a train carrying a little boy. I like it because you always think of Superman. He's faster than a speeding bullet, faster than a train. All this kind of stuff. So it's kind of the train and Superman are kind of associated to each other, and this is one of those cool yellow covers. Just really great one. This was a 2.0 that sold, and it sold for $3,000. The previous record for this book was set back in July of 2022. Or sorry, no, not 2022, 2012. So this book hasn't sold for, that previous record was set like 13 years ago, where, as I said, it sold for $3,240. So this is actually below what it sold for 13 years ago, which is very sad. That was a strong sale back then. This book actually, when I looked at the trends of this book, it really hasn't been performing well. It actually sold just recently, like in 2024, for $2,640. So it's back up a little bit. It's kind of getting back to that record that it set like 13 years ago, but it just hasn't performed that well. I'm not sure why, because it's such an iconic cover, but it just didn't perform that well. Maybe part of the reason for that is it has a high census count. There's 252 of these on the census, and 174 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 2 on the list is Crime Suspense Stories number 22. This is from EC Comics 1954. It's a Johnny Craig cover, and this one I've talked about many times. It's a great decapitation cover, but it also has key significance for the golden age of comics. It really is the comic that ended the golden age, because this is the one that was used in the Senate hearings where they basically said, hey, look at this comic. Is this appropriate for kids? And William Gaines said yes. And that was his mistake. Don't say yes. Just say, hey, these aren't intended for kids or something. He could have made up something. But what he said basically led to the outrage about comics, and then having to basically say, okay, well, we're either going to go out of business or we're going to have to create a comic code that people will follow and, protect the little kids from the evil comics. So this is the comic that did that. This is the comic that ended the golden age. And this was a 2.0 that sold, and it sold for $3,700. The previous record for this book was set back in July of 2023 for $4,200. Now, the last sale just recently was in August of 2025, where it sold for $3,600. So again, what we're seeing is a little bit of a dip and a little bit of a bounce back. This one is another bounce back book. It's not quite up to its records, but it is bouncing up. So another one that has a high census, though. But this one is a book that is very much in demand. There's 491 of these on the census, and 439 are Universal Blue Labels. Number 1 on the list is Marvel Mystery Comics number 2. This is from Timely 1939. It's Charles Manzoulian? I don't know. I was trying to practice how to pronounce his name, and I couldn't get it. I tried though. I really did try, and I'm going to get comments in the below about how to pronounce it. I will try my best in the future. Okay, this one is a cool book though. It's actually the first cover appearance of the Angel. So kind of cool. He's the main character on the cover of this one. It's also his second appearance, and it's the second appearance of the Human Torch, who actually is the cover of Marvel Comics 1, which is where he makes his first appearance, and both of them make their first appearance in that. This also features an ad for Silver Streak Comics number 1. So really cool book, kind of a major book for early Marvel. Uh, timely 1939. I mean, you can't get any earlier than that, right? So this was a 6.5 restored copy, and it sold for $9,400, which is a little bit down. The previous record for this book was set back in, and the exact same book was set back in November of 2023 for $9,600. So it's down $200 from that prior record. Now, I should mention that the restoration is A4, which is extensive. There was color touch, pieces added, tear seals, spine splits corrected, reinforced. It had a lot done to it. And maybe the previous sale was a bit of an overpay, but I think they were just trying to get their money back out, and they got most of it. They got most of it, not all. Now, in a blue label, there was actually a sale for this recently in a blue label where a 6.0 sold, so a slightly lower grade, sold for $33,600 in June of 2025. So it just shows you how valuable this book is. But with restoration, generally you don't get as much, like not even close to as much. Usually in a 6.0, you get about 30%. And this is in line with that. A little bit low. Maybe you'd expect it to go for about 10,000. But this is kind of in line with that effect of restoration really killing the value. As you get higher and higher in the grade, the restoration has more of an impact. So in some books, it could be actually up to 5% of the value of the blue label. So restoration is one of those things that really is living up to the reputation of the purple label of death. Personally, I like restoration because it gives an opportunity to get a nice looking book for an inexpensive price. And if you buy it knowing that it's restored, you get your value, you're not going to lose out, right? So what do you think about restoration? Put that in the comments below as well. And this one has 56 on the census, and 54 of them are blue labels. So actually a lot of them are restored. So that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed this list. What did you think about some of the little bit of investigation that had to go on? Tell me. I'd like to hear it. And thanks again for watching. Bye for now.